Oh, hey, hi everyone. Happy Friday. How are you today? Welcome to VCTV, the Venture Capital TV from Logic. And so this is the weekend episode of VCTV. And I'm always very excited about this episode because we summarize all the topics that we discuss over the week and make it a master class where we share all the summaries of the investments that has been made in 2020 because we are almost the end of the year and we are going to be heading to the next year. So let's just summarize everything in terms of investments and see what has happened this year. Before I start introducing our speakers for tonight, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Sonny Mohanty. I'm the regional director of La Token. La Token obviously performs VCTV. It's the platform to connect investors like yourself with founders and startups who are looking to get funded. We're looking for mentoring, looking for help with scaling up, and lots of other help that comes with funding. So we have been running VCTV every day since February 2020. Because of the coronavirus pandemic, we couldn't travel, we couldn't do roadshows, the physical roadshows that we usually we were doing last year, covering all countries, meeting, networking, closing deals, because that all stopped, as we know, because of the country lockdowns. We switched everything digital, and this is the online platform where we connect all the parties involved in the ecosystem. So since then, we have grown in terms of the number of speakers we have, a number of investors that we have on our platform. We see a lot of traction, a lot of interest, a lot of value addition in bringing all these parties of the ecosystem together. So that's why we perform like 2 sessions in a day now. I host Asia panels. I've got a colleague who's based out of Malaysia. He also hosts on a different timing, Monday to Friday in Asia time zone. So that's about VCTV. That's about me. Today we're going to cover Industry 4.0 and the investments that have been made in the space. Because when we say Industry 4.0, it covers a large set of sectors, and we cover them as a whole. We talk about technology. We talk about digital transformation. Yeah, so that's going to be coming from you guys. So today we have Telly back on the show. Hi, Telly, welcome back. And then we have Gary as well. And we're expecting one more speaker who must be joining us anytime soon, which is Lewis. So Gary, welcome back to VCTV. Happy weekend. Happy Friday. Sorry, weekend for me, I think, is possibly the beginning of the day for you, but still.
I think you're already there. I think you're going to be with Telly on the beach in the Caribbean having lobster.
I wish I could. Seriously, I wish. I'm missing the beach so much. Like, locked up in Singapore. We have beaches, but we don't have lovely beaches like the one that Telly has. Sorry. Yeah, happy. Sorry, Gary. Yeah, happy Friday, and please help introduce yourself to our
Yeah,
speaker.
sure. My name's Gary Fowler, and I'm an investor, a serial entrepreneur. I've done 16 companies. I'm a writer. I've written, I guess today I just published an article in Forbes again on
Yeah.
ethical AI. Uh, I love quantum computing. I am the CEO and president of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, one of the top 10 venture studios in the world. Today, I love artificial intelligence. I've done 2 unicorns, mostly AI oriented. Click Software, I was the original management team of a company out of Haifa. It was sold for 1.35 billion to Salesforce. And also Eva.ai. That's my latest company on the unicorn side. That company formed 4 years ago. God, it seems like a long time ago, but it was only 4 years ago. You know what I mean? It's amazing. You take an idea. It's funny, Sonny, when you're in some type of you're at a location and somebody's talking about you, but don't know that you're beside them and talking about your company that you founded. It's really odd to hear people talk about, oh, this is an incredible company. It's an AI company. And I said, oh, that sounds interesting. And they wouldn't pay it. They didn't even know it was me. So anyhow, it's really funny, that situation. We're Silicon Valley based. We use Silicon Valley as a port to the rest of the world. We work with companies from all over the world anywhere from Jakarta to Moscow, Belarus, India. I mean, really, our whole idea is using it, Silicon Valley as a port. So it's great to be here, Sonny. Appreciate the time and happy Friday.
Thank you, Gary, and happy Friday. Welcome to VCTV. But honestly, when somebody is praising your company, you should say, "Oh, that's me, guys." Put your hand up and say.
It's just funny listening because the funny part is I tried that one time. And the
Okay.
funny part is people, it's like they disconnect that it's you and the company you're talking about. And it's almost like it can't be true. They just don't like I did it one time a long time ago in another situation. It's just odd, it's funny. It's, it's a good thing.
I can imagine, but yes, that's what it is. Thank you, Gary, for sharing those lovely moments with us.
Thank you.
Welcome to VCTV. Next, we have Telly. Hi, Telly. Welcome back on the weekend episode of VCTV. Please help introduce yourself to our third speaker, Louis, who just joined us.
Okay, thank you, Sonny. Morning, everyone. So my name is Telly Ono. I'm based in St. Kitts and Nevis in the Caribbean, and I'm a co-founder of Beyond Capital Markets. This is a digital asset management firm and also a digital financial market infrastructure. I'm a fintech innovator, or should I say DFMI innovator. I'm focused around building ecosystems and have been for the last 6 years. Um, I'm also a co-founder of ProHouse Labs, which is a fintech incubator based in the US. And through that fintech incubator, we have a number of early portfolios that are kind of graduating now. One of which is Alt School, which is the first tech school for alternative finance and digital finance, bridging the gaps, skill gaps that we have today, especially in the area of finance. More to say about me, I'm also a digital economist. About 20 years experience in digital transformation. I started really looking more or less at the financial space and looking at transforming the financial industry way back in maybe 2011, more or less around that time. But other than that, I have experience kind of working vertically across different industries, from the agriculture industry to a number of others, the creative services industries. What else could I say? Yeah, it's me. Great to have me on the show. I'm looking forward to this conversation of Industrial 4.0.
Okay, same here. Thank you, Telly, for that short and cute introduction. And welcome to VCTV. Oh, yes, now we have Louis. Louis, hi, welcome to VCTV. Welcome back to
I'm
VCTV.
here for you, Sonny. You, Minnie Mouse. You guys invited me, and I took the time. The time changed. Yeah, I just can't do the earlier time. So, but let me just talk about me really quickly. It's going to take a second. I'm a managing partner with FJ Partners. We're involved in technology. We're involved in AI, AR, VR, collaboration platforms, blah, 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 blah. Enough about me. Now, I want to talk about the topic here, manufacturing technology. This is what we're talking about, right? We're talking about the Industrial Revolution, the fifth Industrial Revolution. You mentioned 4.0 is more the fifth Industrial Revolution of what's happening and how things are moving forward from AI across the board, cloud computing, everything. So these are the topics that I'm here for. These are the topics that I want to touch on. I don't want to so much talk about me. I want to talk about this stuff. So, but I'm here for you, Sonny. For you
Thank
and
you,
me.
Louis. I mean, I don't know what happened. The times changed, and I don't see you.
Oh well, we were in the United States. We have Ben Franklin's time zone change. So this is what's been happening. So, but you it's 8 o'clock over there, but it's 7 o'clock in the morning. In my part of the world. It used to be 8 o'clock. We used to be even, not anymore.
I think Gary, you and Telly are in the same time zone. Am I correct?
I don't know. I know where I'm at. I don't know
Right
where
now
everybody
I'm on
else
the
is.
east. I'm on the East Coast, so right now it's 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I'm an hour ahead. When the time changes, we're normally the same time, but when it changes, they go back an hour.
8
So it's
a.m.,
8
7
o'clock,
a.m.
8 o'clock here in the morning.
We are 12 hours out, Telly, between you and
Yeah.
me. And
Yep.
Louis and Gary are 7 a.m. Oh. So I mean, thank you so much for committing your time that early in the morning. I mean, 7 a.m. is very early for me, to be honest.
Oh,
But
you reached out to me at 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, okay, you know
Yeah.
what? We'll do it. We'll do it because I haven't been on the show for a little bit, but I want to hear what Telly has to say about the fifth industrial revolution. I'm curious what's happening in the Caribbean.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, sure. Telly, let's start with you, as Lewis said. So let's start with,
Oh,
again, like yesterday, we started a complex, sort of topic. Then we drill down and go easy as we finish the show. So Industry 4.0 obviously covers so many sectors. Let's start with healthcare and go one by one: healthcare, agriculture, manufacturing. So what kind of investments were done in healthcare this year?
well, obviously not in the Caribbean for sure. In the Caribbean, we're still in industry 3.0, trying to move and propel into 4. But when we're looking globally, I think because of the pandemic, there are a lot of investments that were done around in new areas, especially in health tech. So we're seeing an emergence of um, robotics that covers COVID tracing, contact tracing, and the physical space. Seeing them apply it in the hospitals, and then also what I've seen are robots that are used around to kind of spray the air because of the virus. Also seeing an applied use of um, like 3D printing being done to create these ventilation masks because at one point it was really serious and they didn't really have enough production. And more so in Europe, I know I'm part of a user group that, of innovators that have been working um, on creating these new masks that could be used. And they're converting scuba dive masks into these ventilation masks. So that's quite interesting. Um, Also in the space, and it's more or less around then, leveraging the software and the technology, and then AI, obviously, to facilitate contact tracing. But on the hardware side, you have a lot of like contact tracing bracelets, so everyone looks as though they've been to jail or or in some countries. So I've seen this being implemented in, well, not more this. I see it coming to the Caribbean already. You have people wearing like bands with, remote sensing devices and so on. But then more so in the UAE, there have been a lot of investments in that area. On top of my mind, I can't remember the name of the company right now, but as we go through the call, it'll probably come to me. A large investment was done in this space. Um, Obviously, for specific reasons, I've seen quite a bit in the area of robotics being applied to the test and testing. PCR testing is really challenging and it takes a long time. So there have been some efforts and investments going into trying to modify the process and improve a seamless process in the testing. And I think that has been working pretty well because they've kind of cut down the time it takes for you to get your results. There was a time where it took 2 to 3 days, and that's been able to cut down the time to like an hour or so to get your test. And more work done on trying to create mobile. I think big opportunity will be in the area of um, mobile test kits that kind of identify RNA. So these are RNA test kits because the big challenge we have is they have to go through this traditional DNA sequence in order to kind of identify the virus strain. So I think looking at more RNA mobile devices that can come up with something that I see as a big area of research being done and a lot of money being pumped into so far.
Interesting. Very interesting, Telly. I'd like to go next with Gary because Telly said that they're transitioning from Industry 3.0. And Luis just touched base on Industry 5.0. Let's hear from Gary. What's happening in the healthcare space?
Yeah, I mean, so the situation is back to basics, right? So you've got the challenge that we've had, and Telly mentioned it, the supply chain and healthcare has been broken, right? They couldn't even get masks. Imagine state-of-the-art hospitals talking about nanobots and VR and AR, can't even get a paper mask for the doctors and nurses. So, and the staff. So the challenges with one of the challenges with the supply chain, and part of the problem is we've really based ourselves on just-in-time inventory, and so we wouldn't have inventory in supply. And we understand now today that that simply doesn't work, because when you can't get ventilators and you can't get, masks that should, I don't know how, Sonny, it was in Singapore, but masks that should cost like $3 for 50, we're going for $100
the
for
same
50.
here.
Crazy, right? They're garbage, And I remember seeing them at Walmart. Yeah, they had the Equate version of them. Literally, it was a couple dollars for them. So anyhow, that needs to be resolved, and I see a focus on that. Kelly mentioned about the COVID and simple things, using HIC vision or FLIR cameras to be able to identify people coming into a hospital setting that have a temperature. So that's really important. Social distancing, using artificial intelligence to be able to use existing cameras to look at whether or not people are too close together, and if they are, being able to send out alerts. So those kind of things are important. I mean, this pandemic, it's incredible. I mean, compared to where we were in March, the pandemic's a lot worse. I don't know what it's like in Singapore, but here it's a lot worse than it was. I mean, we're setting record COVID levels today.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Right now.
Singapore is under control. We are very strict about many things here, like putting on the mask. And when it comes to social distancing, we follow the rules. I mean, you must know Singapore a little bit if you know. So
I
people
know.
do.
I mean, you can't chew gum, right?
Yeah, we can't we don't have chewing gums inside the country. We don't have stores selling them. So yeah, that's how strict we are. But that's why we are totally under control. I mean, I sometimes do not feel that I'm scared to go outside and sit with people, next to people. I mean, it's crowded over here. As you know, it's very highly dense country. But it doesn't bother me, doesn't scare me. So that's how it is right now. But I really feel like other countries should follow the way we've just managed ourselves within this little tiny, it's called red dot. So
If
Well,
you're a red dot, what am I?
yeah.
Tiny green dot.
yeah, you can call that as an analogy maybe. Yeah, that's what we call like ourselves. I live here, so yeah. So, but Gary, just be careful, because you
Yeah,
are.
I mean, the situation is so, part of the situation, you've got to weigh the political wins versus freedom. And so we've had to go back and forth. I mean, here we do get fined if you don't have a mask on. It's $250 for the first instance and $750 for the second.
Yeah,
So,
but how are these cases progressing then? How are the numbers growing then? I mean,
well, because, so right now I've been locked into Florida, not in Silicon Valley. Normally I'm out in Silicon Valley at my place there.
yeah,
But what happened is, people get together. They're getting, I mean, people don't like staying home. They go
yeah.
out and have birthday parties. Now the situation, they're advising people not to have Thanksgiving dinners together, which is a big holiday here. So it's, people would go on the beach, hang out together, and they would get sick. I just heard yesterday or the day before, I was playing tennis, uh, and I met with the one of my doubles partner who was telling me that a billionaire who's there. I'm in at the polo club here, and one of the billionaires came in on his private jet and had a party, a get together, and one of them had gotten COVID. Now most of that group has COVID,
I'm
right?
sure.
So it's people want to come together, and it's a challenging situation, but Sonny, if you look at pictures from 1918, 1919, 1920, you'll see people with masks on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
took 4 years for that to go over with no vaccine. And so we've got some time ahead of us. We just have to, which is great that we're digitally transforming and adapting to this situation. So you were asking me about healthcare. Think about what's happened with telemedicine, right? It
Yeah.
used to be a year ago, you couldn't get a doctor to get on a Zoom call with you to talk about a condition. Now, they're encouraging those kind of things. It's changed a bit. So I'm encouraged about that. I'm encouraged. I've told you many times. I mean, 5 years ago, when I was one of the early Zoom users, I was put on Zoom by one of the investors in Zoom, and here we are later. There's 400 million daily active users of Zoom, right? So we've been able to connect together, and it's something that was going to happen anyhow. It just happened a lot faster. So the healthcare system, things that are some of the trends that are taking place, cobots for surgery, to be able to have surgeons assisted during surgery with these cobots, more robotic surgeries. I just did a presentation to the top pharmaceutical companies in Europe on drug discovery and artificial intelligence. So today with drug discovery, as you know, they use benches. So they do their analysis, they use benches, they do all kinds of formulations um, and research, but now using artificial intelligence to be able to do that research for you. So there's, this age, and COVID has also helped that. Think about the advances that are taking place because they have to develop a vaccine faster. So it's an exciting time, and the 3D printing of organs,
Yeah.
uh, those kind of technologies are coming into fruition today. I've heard about some of them myself. We have 3D printing growing pancreases in a lab to be able to do organ replacement. I mean, we're not that far away from it. It's very exciting, actually.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, thanks for sharing those insights. Next, I'd like to go, Lewis. We're talking about healthcare investments in 2020 with the focus on industry 5.0,
Well,
maybe.
I mean, manufacturing in itself, healthcare is one thing. You have a lot of advances there. I think that the people that are listening now, they're tuning in to listen to about the manufacturing technology. I think we need to touch on that. So I want to touch on that.
Sure.
Advanced materials, this is going to be a big thing because you have, solar and wind and water, all this stuff going on. Alternative energy devices are being developed. So manufacturing and manufacturing technology in that area is going to be very interesting. Green energy, I mean, just a lot of things going on there. But cloud computing is going to be a big thing in manufacturing because you're talking about efficiency, you're talking about connectivity between humans and machines, you talk about all the stuff that's happening. And one of the biggest issues there, first, when you're using when you have cloud computing, this is how your welding machines and the foremen they're able to connect. Okay, but now the biggest issue that's going to come up is security. Okay, when you're communicating between your device and the machine, what happens in between? Okay, is beyond end-to-end encryption. You're talking about endpoint encryption. You need all this stuff that's going to come into play, and all these things are going to happen. When Henry Ford, when he revolutionized, okay, manufacturing, and you had the assembly line, that changed everything. We're in a pivotal change right now, and things are going to change in manufacturing, and it's going to make it more efficient, create more skilled jobs. You're going to get rid of menial labor, and people panic. They're like, oh, we're going to lose jobs. No, you're going to have higher paying jobs, better jobs, jobs that you can adhere to, where if you need to go from company to company, you can actually do that. Okay, and I think all this stuff is important. Robotics, the automation part of it is going to be amazing. If anyone has ever been in a manufacturing facility, and we've owned manufacturing facilities, the robotics part of it is like poetry in motion. When you see these machines welding, screwing, doing all this stuff is lined up on an assembly line type of situation, but it's doing stuff that before humans would have to do. but is doing it more efficiently, making the production line move quicker, being cost effective and increasing the margins for the company. And if you do that, that's going to help manufacturing build up, whether it's in the United States, wherever it is in the world, and that's how that's going to be done. And the fifth industrial revolution, it's happening. It's happening piece by piece. And when all this stuff comes to a head, basically what you're gonna have humans and machines in sync doing a dance, doing the waltz, because it's gonna be that efficient. It's gonna be that simple. Kids now, they don't know what an actual tube TV is. They don't know what it is to go play outside. They don't know a lot of things. They don't know what a telephone is. When you tell them you're going to hang up on them, they're like, how do you do that? How do you hang up the phone? They don't know this stuff. So the next iteration of what's going to be happening is going to bring stuff to the forefront that the next generation that's going into manufacturing, they're not going to know. They hopefully they know the history, but they're not going to be exposed to this old technology. They're going to be looking at the new advances in technology, and that is key. And this is where the opportunities are going to come in. And I want to talk about that later. I don't want to take too much time from everyone because I don't want to hog it up, but I want to talk about that a little bit later.
Sure. Thank you, Lewis. Thanks for that, sharing that information. Let's talk about manufacturing with Telly. What's happening in Caribbean with regards to robotics and manufacturing startups, and how much funding has investments have gone into this space, into the space in particularly the region that you are serving, Telly. Sorry.
In the region, it's more diverse. I would say, for example, in Trinidad and Tobago, they would have invested quite a bit in fab labs and maker spaces. So in those contexts, you're starting to see more investments in more 3D printing and these type of robotics going in. But beyond that, there really hasn't been as much. Um, when you're looking at the larger factories, for example, Trinidad and Tobago, because of its oil industry, obviously has a big base when it comes to industrial production. So like from steel to the different industries, they have been investing heavily in automation over the years. I'm not quite sure to what extent, have they kind of revamped that automation yet, but it's definitely an area of interest in terms of them improving their efficiency. Um, like I said, the Caribbean tends to be, a little bit, okay, slow, and we take it easy. And I think, like Gary just said, the events of this year have just propelled everybody to be like, okay, we need to literally revamp and introduce more solutions. We're starting to see some younger startups can go down to like Jamaica, starting to use drones, and in the spatial space, yes, a lot is being done with that. And obviously linked to climate change, naturally, you have to pick up data points for different things. So there's quite a lot of investment now on UAV devices and drones in order to capture quite a bit of data points. And then also for cadastry, a lot of times some of the challenges we have, if there happens to be an event, a catastrophic event, you have to at least have an idea of the cadastral system in order to kind of map it. So right now you have cadastral mapping, and then if or when there is a disaster, deploying these drones make it much easier to do assessments. They have a big climate risk pooled fund. I think it was the first one of its kind in the world. And they heavily rely on these new technologies in order to kind of, do their underwriting and assessment. And I know they're currently working on new type of products like parametric insurance, which then would really rely on more real-time, data to kind of trigger that claim. So in the blockchain space, I think there have been some projects and pilots of companies that are trying to use and leverage a combination of IoT and a number of things in order to IoT and blockchain to kind of come up with some deliverables, especially along the supply chain, because we are all connected by water.
Yeah.
Logistics is a nightmare. So for me, I think it's kind of it'll be really interesting to see how best we can leverage industry 4.0 and 5.0 in order to do that. And specifically when it comes to like the say electronic space, say St. Kitts and Nevis, for example, they have I think it's the only Eastern Caribbean country that still has a manufacturing base, and there are a number of companies that actually base their operation here. Um, I think two of those companies of that cluster, I would say, have invested uh, a lot in CRC tools and machines, and they produce like computing elements and transformers for the US market and also for like South America and stuff like that. So there it's actually an export hub. So those are using it. However, it's not 100% automated.
Right.
And interestingly enough, they hire a lot of women because,
That's good.
especially one, yeah, there's one factory that actually does Boeing parts. So the specific parts are done here for
Right.
Boeing, very specific engine part. And it's a lot more women because they say women are very precise, they take their time and so on.
Right.
So there is a risk. I mean, I could see robotics doing wonders in the industry, but then it really means that they have to retrain, you know, the
The work.
women to
Yeah,
be able to manage those higher operations
totally.
because you're talking about a whole sector of probably 2000,
Yeah.
95% are women. So
Right.
there is that impact
Women are
potentially.
not from the industry, from the engineering background. They're not from that background, or
No, no. So again, you point on a big important thing. You might have the management obviously are trained and the engineers and stuff, but then the people on the line, they're still on the line, you know. So I think here is an opportunity where you can actually use, say VR and AR to kind of train
mm,
them and design and have them working on different aspects. So it's a potentially um, clear opportunity. It just requires investment and the willingness for them to kind of move.
right. Wow. Good to know, Telly. Good to know about that. But I think, yeah, there would be opportunities for these women. I mean, that's very important. As you rightly said, very precise and everything. Yeah.
Very precise. I mean, I actually saw them putting together this, I can't remember what part of the engine, but it's a very key part of the engine. And that company has always been like regarded as highest quality out of all the different distribution countries
Yeah.
because these women are very precise, but it could be really, really, I mean, to me, it's like repetitive tasks, boring. It's a
Hmm.
perfect application for it, and then they're low paid as well. So I think I get you, Lewis. If you can, apply them, retrain them, and you can actually give them much better jobs, higher paid jobs for for
Right.
managing the whole process. Right?
Telly, let
Great.
me tell you something. If they put more women in charge of these manufacturing facilities, the production would go through the roof because you're right, the precision and actually being very much so able to manage things a little bit better. Just my personal opinion. Sonny, you can smile because you know it's putting women at the forefront.
Thank Thank you so much, Louise. Thank you so much for adding that on with what Telly said. And absolutely correct. I mean, we have to empower women if they have that, if they can be financially inclusive as well, especially from the region Telly comes from. Thank you, Gary. We Telly obviously for her it's more Industry 3.0. So what do you see like because obviously you invest globally across the world. I mean, it's a global investment firm that you have, and we talk about advanced technologies like quantum computing, which is more ahead of blockchain as well. in a way that I gather from you. So what's happened what's happened in the investment space in 2020 in
I'm
manufacturing?
smiling about the quantum computing thing because yesterday I saw that I was quoted in the government journal on my
Right.
article on quantum computing, and it was just amazing because if you talk about industrial 5.0 and 6.0, quantum computing is going to change everything, right? In fact, I'm working on another article about quantum computing and cybersecurity now. So it's amazing. Anyhow, that's a different show, but it's really a whole different level. So I
Yeah.
see a number of different trends that are really interesting. One is a smart factory, where you've got these modularly structured smart factories and these cyber physical systems that monitor really physical processes within the plant. So I see that as a really big thing. And of course, a couple of weeks ago, I had the top guy at Intel, the general manager of Intel for IoT, and we were talking about smart cities and IoT. So think about it, the sensors, these smart sensors that really are going to be the force of innovation for the future. Now we've got data coming off of them that we can analyze in all kinds of different ways. So areas like smart production, smart homes, smart factories, cities, mobility, those kind of things. And then imagine all the data that's going to come out that we can use our artificial intelligence to not only give us information about, but to do things like predictive maintenance. So today we do PM predictive maintenance based on time base. Every year they come in and do it, but it should really be based on when the system needs it. So imagine having those kind of sensors tied in to a system in a manufacturing facility to identify maintenance issues live, right? And allows the system, the owners, to be able to perform these maintenance situations real time. The other situation, one of my companies today is not only a 3D printing company, but it's a carbon 3D printing company.
Wow.
So imagine, you're in a facility, you need to have parts printed. Your system understands that they're running low on parts if you're using a just-in-time model, and the printers already starts printing the parts. Now imagine having these systems talk to each other, right? Today, it's basically we instruct them to do things, but the future is the systems being able to talk to each other. So imagine how much more efficient the process is. But that leads me to the next thing, cybersecurity. So as we developed all these systems, and as Lewis said, all this cloud computing, we've got another set of issues with cybersecurity. And I remember one time when I was in undergraduate, I had a class in criminology. And one of the things they talked about is once you have some type of a secure system, the criminals figure out how to break it, the hackers, right? And this is like a never ending story. So as we're going down through this, we've got another set of issues. Think about it from, national defense issues. If somebody gets into all your manufacturing facilities or all your power grid.
Yeah.
And as I said, the other trend going back to supply chain, which we didn't talk about last year in 2019 going into 2020, is we've got a challenge with the way we view supply chains all the way from the point of manufacturing to the time it gets into the stores. And we've got to look at that a bit differently. We've got to figure out how to carry smart inventory levels to be able to adjust based on pandemic situations and other situations. By the way, pandemics aren't the only thing, right? In 1816, in Mount Tambor, Indonesia, a volcano went off that created a cloud that created mass migrations around the world. In fact, a lot of Europeans came to the US purely because of that, because there wasn't food. It is the summer that didn't happen in 1816, if you look it up. So there's other things that can happen. There can be solar flares. We've had the EMPs come off of the sun, right, in the mid 1800s. If it happened today, it would destroy most of the electronics in the entire planet, right?
Yeah.
That kind of things. So,
and Gary, just to touch on that, I'm going to say this about maybe 15 something years ago, there was a solar flare. Do you remember that?
yeah. Oh,
When
yeah.
that solar flare hit, I had a GPS, I had a Garmin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blew out the Garmin. Okay, just imagine that being on a larger scale. I just want to chime in there and interrupt you because I think that's important too, because there have to be protocols in place to hopefully combat that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of other things. You know, it's interesting. Just a little side note. So on a panel some time ago, I met an astronaut, a NASA astronaut, Christopher Altman. He's a PhD in quantum physics. And we're to just, you know, it was amazing. He said, you know, you don't understand how small the planet is until you fly around the Earth in a ship and you look down on it. You understand the immense amount of looking out to the universe and how small we really are. And sometimes we forget. I mean, we think we're protected. We're not, right? The dinosaurs aren't here for a reason.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, these are real things. If it was me, Sonny, seriously, what I would be saying is I would be figuring out how in the world I could blow asteroids away from the Earth coming in, and I would band together instead of wait until it's too late and trying to figure it out, you know, within.
Do you think Elon Musk is not trying to figure this out, Gary? You know he's onto it.
I mean, the situation, you know, it's funny. You know, I hear a lot of things, right, because of some of the connections I have to the you know, folks of governments and that kind of thing. I hear a lot of stuff, and absolutely. I mean, there's, you know, yes. I mean, there's things they don't talk about, right?
Right.
Just look at Palantir and what they're doing. We don't even know what they're doing, but they're doing things with the government. So that's heavy.
Yeah. And I mean, Musk's situation is, you know, he's curious. He's curious on one side. On the other side, he wants to, you know, he wants to put a little dent in the universe. And his dent in the universe is real. It's not like Steve Jobs and Apple.
Well, I mean, look at what he did with the Boring Company. He just created that, and he said, you know what? Take it and run with it. I have the idea, I have the schematics, take it and run with it. And a company was created that really has nothing to do with them. But what did they do? They created that tunnel, their boring tunnel that goes, where does it go from Vegas to LA in one shot? You know, it's interesting, and technology is going to continue to advance in all areas. You know,
I mean, look at it right now. If we look at where we are right on the planet, we've got close to 8 billion people on the planet Earth. We've got, we've talked about this a few times. There isn't enough water, and we're going to, at some point in time, overpopulate the planet. We need to look at the stars. And if you look at the galaxy, you know, this is directly from NASA. There are about 6 billion Earth-like planets just in the Milky Way. It's now estimated there are 200 trillion galaxies within the universe, 200 trillion, right? And Earth-like planet means they're close enough to a star where they're habitable, right? There's water, there's that kind of thing. So think about what's out there.
You know, what's funny? Remember Columbus, they thought the world was flat. Yeah. In 100 years, they're going to say, oh, I can't believe these people thought they were the only living creatures in the universe.
I mean, you hear about that. You start to hear about those kind of things too, right? Like for real, you know, it's, you know, I'm inquisitive like a child, and I like to learn about all kinds of different things, whether it's astrophysics or AI. And because of AI, I've learned a lot, but I mean, think about it. The probability that we're alone is not very high. In fact, one of the, I'm not going to mention which NASA astronaut today, but one of them told me there's 100% chance, 100, right? Not 99, 100% chance that, and this is a PhD, right? And that we're not alone. So we just,
I know we're not alone. Not that I see little creatures, but I know we're not alone. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can look at you know, 1953, Harry Truman was talking about the objects over Washington, and Trump the same time, about a year and a half ago, they scrambled jets. You look at, anyhow, that's a whole other show. It's just an interesting situation for me, scientifically interesting. So.
Absolutely, Gary. I understand. I mean, we can curate another different session or show for that as well topic. So it's a Friday for us, and obviously it's the end of the day for me, like the end of business day. But anyways, we really had great time with the opening session insights for the episode today. So I'd like to know, like, what's the closing remarks, because we're just 15 more minutes. So just want to know a very specific closing remarks from Louis.
Good. All right. I was happy about that. All right. Look, Gary mentioned it, it's important because with cloud computing and, when you have machines and humans communicating, whether it's in a factory or whether it's remotely, it leaves a big gap where you can get hacked. Okay. Governments are getting hacked. Manufacturing plants are getting hacked. I remember a situation, they ran a test where they had dams in Europe, and they went there and they brought a hacker in to see if they can hack it. And they went and they hacked the dams. They controlled the water flow and everything, which controlled the electricity for the town. So they were able to shut everything down, and they could do nothing to fix it. So encryption, cybersecurity is important. Look, they estimate that with global security, it's going to be about $124 billion going into 2021. That's huge. Cloud computing, it's only about $600 million globally. How is that even possible when that is the future? So there's a big opportunity, huge, for any entrepreneur, any small business that's involved in that area. Pursue it, run with it. Trust me, the opportunities are going to come forward because it's there. That's the big gap. That's the big problem. So end-to-end encryption, endpoint encryption, okay, cloud security, big things.
Yeah, startups in this particular sector, they should be looking out for, sort of, and investors looking out for startups in this space as well. So yeah, thank you, Louis, for sharing those closing remarks with us. Next, I'll have Telly. What's the closing remarks for the session?
Just coming up from Louise, I think one of the key things is to really also, I would say, is a great opportunity is to look and see how um, these technologies are connected and
Okay.
really embedded in different solutions. So for me, a big area is also looking at how infrastructure is slowly starting to form through more interoperability between different systems. So you have the issue of, someone might create a bot here and a bot there. I think interoperability, any startup that's working along the lines of interoperability, as well as mixing or combining a bunch of different solutions together, be it hardware, robotics,
Right.
software. No code is also going to be a big area because it fosters adoption, and then also integrating that with AI. We can't keep talking about AI.
Right.
AI is like fundamental. Then machine learning, because I mean we're talking Industry 5.0. It's really about intelligence and sense making. The
Yeah.
areas or sectors that I would think will have the greatest impact, Gary mentioned it. I think anything to do with climate action, whether it is transitioning away to lower carbon emissions, so that's electricity, renewable energy, stuff like that, smart cities,
Right.
the application of Industry 5.0 within that context is
Yeah.
what will unlock a lot of value. And then lastly, I would say the skills gap.
Mm.
As Louis said, cybersecurity is one area. The skills gap is really cross-cutting,
Right.
So it's quite important to then start looking at investing in the management of these new technologies, because it's great to have people who can do cybersecurity, but somebody has to be able to manage the whole process and understand the evolving landscape and the transition. So yeah, that would say, the education needs to level up.
Education and cybersecurity, yes, but startups in those, and interoperability. Sorry, and the startups in that space, please.
And yeah, machine to machine learning. So like IoT as well.
IoTs, yes. Okay, startups in that space, please reach out to Telly, and she would be interested to explore further with you. Thank you so much, Gary. Your closing remarks.
Yeah, I mean, this is, you know, as you know, I love artificial intelligence and quantum computing. I mean, we're really at the beginning. This is like the beginning of the 20th century, and electricity has just been uh, discovered by Nikola Tesla,
Yeah.
and Westinghouse is looking at doing some of the implementations with the motors. I mean, we're at the beginning. This is a dawn of a new era, and so there's a lot of good things that can happen. One thing for the startups, I like, I've written about emotion AI, which we're bringing ideas like compassion to the artificial intelligence. It's all about the training sets, how you
Right.
train AI. It's like having a child. If you don't train it the right way and it's only about business, that's what you get. And I'm
Right.
not sure if you train AI, it's going to think that we're usable, right? We're carbon. We take up a lot. We fight. We do all kinds of things that might not like us. So make sure that we train the AI the right way.
Yeah.
This digital transformation has really thrust societies around the world into an entirely new state. And from my standpoint, it's a good thing because with the digital transformation, people were dragging their heels, companies, and going through it. Now they're forced to do it. So it's an interesting time. Telemedicine, manufacturing, 3D printing. I mean, all kinds of different things have come out that have sped up. Like I said, I'm doing a 3D carbon printing company myself today, and
Right.
also I have a healthcare company called
Yeah.
Zemply, which is
Yeah.
for remote patient monitoring. So these technologies coming out are really part of this digital transformation. I'm excited about it and encouraged. But remember, we're going to have a lot of data. It needs to be analyzed. And as Lewis said, and Telly said, cybersecurity is
Yes.
very, very important because if we don't, understand that and put the right kind of systems in place, we could be jeopardizing a whole lot because there's so much data out there today.
Yeah.
Sonny, before you go, if I can just say something real quick because we have about a minute. Okay, we have boots on the ground in Africa and Asia and Europe and of course the United States. I mean, because we're involved in a lot of things, and for companies out there that are listening to this show, I want you to think back to World War II. But Gary was touching on history. Let me touch on a little history too. Back then, you had Ford, you had Chrysler, you had GM, you had a lot of different car companies that were making cars. They were forced by the government to start making planes. That's where with the Boeings and all these companies they were born from. This is when you had companies that in Europe that were making these big crazy planes that all of a sudden, boom, they had to become BMW and Mercedes because they couldn't make planes anymore. People don't realize, look at the logo of BMW. That logo is a propeller.
Yes.
Okay, so that has to do with the transformation. The pandemic is forcing for change. So look at that and see where things are going to go, because there's going to be a change that's going to open up a lot of opportunity.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you for adding on those insights to the session today. I really liked the session today. I mean, it was very, and thanks to Louis as well for joining us. It's like comeback. I would like
Not
to
for
see
anybody else but you, Sonny. Anybody, if I would be no. Okay.
Gonna have you back again. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Telly. Thank you for being committed to VCTV, because it's very important, to have the speakers, because obviously VCTV, as I say, is because of you speakers like you, Louis, and Telly, and Gary, and the time that you commit, like 7 a.m., 8 a.m. I mean, this is too early for anyone, but that's what the beauty about this family, VCTV family, is. We are really glued together. We feel the need of having each other as like a family member. So thank you so much for your time. It's the Friday.
But next time we have to have Gary play the piano. He has to do this. It's there somewhere, even virtually. Just play it.
We see that all the time. So Gary, maybe yes, I don't know. So
Gonna play chopsticks. Do it, Gary. Do it.
That's a different show.
That's a variety show we're gonna do.
I'm gonna do it if Lewis sings.
Hey, I'll sing. I'll bring a singer on with me. We'll make it happen. I'll lip sync.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Telly, you don't worry. You're gonna be there with me. We'll do something. Don't worry. We got it.
Yeah, I'll be cheering you on.
There you go. There you go. I'll be moderating all of
Yeah.
you.
Cool. Division of labor, it works.
Hey, we may need the Supremes. I don't know, but we may need something for that session. So we got to keep that in mind.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for making it really fun while we're just finishing the weekend episode of VCTV. And stay healthy, stay safe. As guys said, the numbers are like growing in Florida. So please stay connected. And I'll be back next week with different topics, different speakers, Monday to Friday, 8 p.m. Singapore. And startups and founders who like to connect with Gary, Lewis, and Telly, you can always do that directly through their LinkedIn handle or through our website, www.lawtoken.com/profiles, and their profiles are all getting featured on our website. If you'd like to connect and pitch your ideas or your startup, please do feel free to do so, and we can facilitate that to happen. Thank you so much. Again, it's a happy weekend, all of you, like, Telly, Gary, and Lewis, and I hope to see you all again on another episode of VCT. Till then, stay safe, stay connected, and